Despite only being on the market for just a few weeks, the Sony A9 Mark III is already topping the Japanese sales charts. With a global shutter in a stills hybrid camera, the Sony A9 Mark III comes in second place at Yodobashi. And granted, the Sony A9 Mark III isn't cheap. It sells for $59.98, but it shows that there's definitely demand for a low-resolution, high-speed, fast-action camera capable of up to 120 frames per second with a global shutter, despite having a rather limited ISO range. But this really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. After all, the Canon EOS R3, when it first came to market, sold well for a limited time as well, showing up also at second place at Yodobashi. The only question is, how long will the Sony A9 Mark III be able to hold on to second place? And this is the best time for this camera to go on sale. The Paris Olympics, after all, are just coming up in about 5 months. And they're the perfect opportunity, the perfect scenario, the perfect series of use cases to test out a high-speed, fast-action camera. The Sony A9 Mark III is the first camera released by Sony here in 2024, and it's going to be a rather interesting year. It's going to be a busy year. After all, the Paris Olympics are coming up in just about 5 months, and that means that all the major camera companies are going to be releasing some of their best cameras ever. But the only question is, how long will sales of the Sony A9 Mark III be able to continue to do well? I mean, after all, the Canon EOS R3 went on sale and immediately went up to the top of the charts, reaching second place, but then shortly thereafter fell down and then never returned to the top charts. I mean, after all, a sports fast-action photography camera does have a rather limited market. A camera such as the Nikon Z9 is more of the master of everything, a jack of all trades. It does everything. It does high resolution. It does high speed. Although, according to specs, the Sony A9 Mark III is capable of delivering up to 120 frames per second continuous shooting at 24.6 megapixels. Now, the Z9 can only do 20 frames per second lossless RAW at 45.7 megapixels, but you see, that's one of the benefits of shooting with a lower resolution. You can also shoot a whole lot faster, but you can also get those images off the camera very quickly and then send them off to, well, whatever agency you're working for. And that's a definite plus. But the only real question I have is, and you might be asking as well, is what about the Canon EOS R1? It really depends on what Canon releases in terms of capabilities for that camera. What kind of value is it going to deliver? Is Canon going to deliver something more along, well, the lines of an R3 Mark II, slightly higher resolution at 30 megapixels, aiming at sports and fast action photographers and pretty much nobody else? Or could Canon be getting ready to release a jack of all trades, a master of everything, a camera that, according to one source, is telling me that it is going to be better than the Nikon Z9, that it is going to be better than the Sony Alpha 1? There's so much that we don't know about the R1 that it's really hard to, well, come to any sort of credible or analysis that's based on any sort of fact. But one thing we do know is that Canon has been working on the R1 for 4 to 6 years, and the patent technology going into this camera even longer. Canon's had a long time. They've seen what Sony's released with the Alpha 1 several years ago. And the Nikon Z9, well, that's been a couple of years as well. And of course, they released the R3, their own camera that pretty much replaced the 1DX Mark III as their flagship mirrorless camera, even in Canon's own words. So the Canon EOS R1, if it is going to be the master of everything, a jack of all trades, it could hinder sales of the Sony A9 Mark III. And perhaps, just perhaps, maybe Sony is concerned about the Canon EOS R1. Maybe they have inside information, or maybe they just want to get their camera out before the R1. I mean, after all, Sony, in their own words, said that the, well, A9 Mark III, it was going to be released in spring of 2024. And then it started shipping a whole lot earlier. Just started shipping in the United States, what, just last week, this week? And it's been shipping in Japan a little bit earlier, as well as Europe. So Sony got it to market a couple of months earlier than expected, probably because of the anticipation of the Canon EOS R1. Maybe Sony thinks that the Canon EOS R1 is going to be the master of everything, a jack of all trades, more a camera that's going to be better than the Nikon Z9 and the Alpha 1, rather than just a upgrade to the Canon EOS R3. And that's kind of what we're waiting for, isn't it? To see what Canon does, because Canon still doesn't really have a mirrorless successor to the Canon EOS, the Canon EOS 1DX Mark III. Yes, the R3 is arguably the de facto replacement of that camera, but it's not a 1 series camera. After all, it's an R3, a 3 series camera. So we really have to wait and see what Canon does with the 1 series, and it's going to be a huge update over the 1DX Mark III. The only question is, how much so? And I'm still on the fence right now. I'm hearing my own sources telling me that it's going to be an insane camera. Sony Alpha Rumors is saying the same thing. But Canon Rumors and others are saying, no, it's not going to be a major update. It's going to be a sports and fast action photography camera, which, as I've said many, many times before, is the primary market of the Canon EOS R1. So we're just a few weeks away, maybe a week away from actually having some sort of announcement by Canon. Again, according to one of my sources, and everybody in the marketplace is predicting that before CP+, we're going to get some sort of announcement. Will it be a development announcement? Will it be some sort of video teaser? Or maybe a web portal set up by Canon just to tease about this new camera coming out? Will we get any sort of details? I certainly hope so. I think we've waited long enough. And then the camera's expected to be announced fully in March, which is next month, just a few weeks away. And it'll start shipping at the end of March, going into, or April. No, April, May is when it's supposed to start shipping according to one source. So we're not too far away. I know it's a little bit frustrating. I wish I had some more validated specifications or even some specifications on the Canon EOS R1, but it's just, yeah, it's pretty bad. Normally, this close to any sort of announcement, we'd be having all sorts of leaking specs on Canon cameras, but not this time. No, Canon is doing a very good job of not leaking information. And Canon, if you're watching, please leak a little something this week. Just give us something. Help us understand if it's going to be a master of everything or if it's just going to be aimed at sports and fast action photographers. We'd certainly like to know. And if you'd like to stay up to date on all the latest regarding the Sony A9 Mark III or the Canon EOS R1, the R5 Mark II, or what Nikon's got planned, or Panasonic if they're going to refresh the S1, then please go ahead and subscribe and also follow me on X. And if you're interested in purchasing any camera gear, specifically the Sony A9 Mark III, this little guy right here, then please use my affiliate links, the ones in the description down below and the ones I flashed up on the screen, because it really does help this channel grow. I get anywhere from 2 to 12% back, and that goes right back into investing into this channel to purchase new gear. I don't take any income from this channel. I use my day job to fund my lifestyle, so everything that comes into this channel gets devoted right back to it. So I'm looking forward to purchasing at least a couple of camera bodies this year and a whole slew of lenses. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great week, and we'll see you again soon. Hopefully very soon with some new and tasty bits of information.